supported by Engineers Ireland, South East Branch of Engineering and the South East Industry Cluster. So that's how we can come to you today. So before we get cracking, I just want to, you see this bridge? Look. That lovely bridge. That is a gorgeous bridge, isn't it? Some of you may already recognise it. I hadn't seen it before. It's a bridge seemingly in New Ross, and it's the Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy Bridge. So firstly, it is a bridge for in the name of Rose Kennedy Bridge, Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy, who of course was the mother of John F. Kennedy, one of America's presidents, and Robert Kennedy as well, I'm sure. Built by BAM in Ireland, and it opened officially last year. It is really beautiful. So since this is an Engineers Week event, it seemed appropriate that we put that forward. So enough about me. I want you to meet the people that are going to share their experiences of their careers in engineering so far. And we have 6 people joining us this morning. So firstly, I'm just going to introduce them. They're just going to come forward, say hello, and then they're going to talk a little bit more about their careers as we go forward. So first up, Emily Watson is a mechanical and a manufacturing engineering. She works for Servier, and she's a graduate of Waterford IT from 2012. So Neve or Emily, come forward and say hello to us. How are you?
Hi Neve. Hi everybody. How's everyone doing this morning?
Good. And where are you calling from today?
I'm calling from Gorey.
Gorey, very good. I hope the weather's good where you are, Emily. Thank you very much. I'll come back to you shortly. Next up, we have Ifa Dempsey, and she is involved in the client computing group at Intel, and she's an electronic engineer, a graduate from Carlow IT. Ifa, good morning. How are you?
Hi, good morning, everyone.
And where are you calling from?
The Curragh in Kildare.
The Curragh, lovely. I hope it's a lovely, it looks like it's a lovely sunny day there, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is lovely sunny. Yeah. A little bit foggy, but sun is trying to come out. Yeah.
At least it's not raining. That's the most important thing, right, Aoife? And then we have Neil Mitchell, and Neve is a project engineer at Sanofi in Waterford, and of course they make specialised treatments for rare diseases in Waterford, and she's a graduate of engineering at UCD, specialising in bioengineering. Good morning, Neve. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great, thank you. Excited.
And where are you calling from today?
I'm calling from Sanofi in Waterford, so I'm on site now at the minute.
Good, very good, excellent, great. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll come back to you shortly. Then we have Bridget Walsh. She's a civil engineer from Carlow IT, a mature student, and she's passionate about climate action and renewable energy solutions, which is so important in these days. Bridget, how are you?
Hi all, how's everyone?
Where are you calling from this morning?
I'm calling from Kilkenny. I'm based in Kilkenny, the city itself.
Kilkenny, very good. Good weather? Nice weather? Great, good. It's always good to know that the sun always shines in Kilkenny. That's what I hear. All right, we'll come back to you later. Aisling Mcgrath is from Clonmel, and she's a mechanical engineering graduate of Waterford Institute of Technology, and she works at Abbott as the quality control inspection section. Aisling, how are you?
Hi, Neve. Good morning. How are you?
Good. And you're in Clonmel then, right now?
I sure am. Certainly am.
Good. Looks like the weather's good where you are too. Thank God.
Lovely.
Brilliant. I'll come back to you later to hear more about your work. And then lastly on our panel we have Ifa Conway, and she's a project manager for Quintain Property Development in Dublin, a civil engineer, and graduated at Carlow IT. Ifa, how are you?
Hi Neve, how are you? Very well, thank you.
Good. So you're in Dublin?
I'm in Dublin, yeah, working from home at the moment.
Great.
Like lots of others.
I know. What's the weather like? It's
not great this morning, no.
Well, the rest of the country seem to be getting the good weather. But anyway, we'll come to you later on. All right. Okay. So we are going to open it up to questions in about 20 or 25 minutes. But firstly, let's hear from each of our contributors, tell their story about how they studied engineering and their career so far. So let's go back to Emily. Just to remind you again, she is a mechanical and manufacturing engineer at Servier, and she graduated from Waterford Institute from 2012. So Emily, tell us a little bit more about your journey.
Thank you very much, Neve. So I'm going to go back a little bit further to when I was in your position, and I had no idea what engineering was. And I remember seeing one of these talks and thinking, that sounds pretty cool, I'll give it a go. And I actually did a PLC course in Waterford where I did electronic engineering for 1 year. And I said, yeah, I want to do this, but I want to do mechanical and manufacturing. And so through the PLC course, I got into Waterford Institute of Technology, and I studied to have my level 8 degree in mechanical manufacturing. From there, I was really, really lucky to get a job 1 month after graduating in 2012 in Servier. So I'm in Servier about 8.5 years now. I didn't think I'd be here this long, but in those 8.5 years, I've actually had 6 different positions. So I started as a packaging engineer where I worked on equipment, on processes, and improving what we do on site. And for most people who've never heard of Servier, we manufacture tablets for people who are very ill. So they're typically tablets people go on for life, for like hypertension and diabetes. So it's a very valuable product for people, and to know that I'm creating processes so patients get their medication faster was really, really satisfying. From there, I became a project manager for a global project, and I worked on that project for about 1.5 years, and I'd spent a lot of time in France and in Poland with my colleagues in other Servier sites. And in about 2016, I got another promotion, and I moved into the performance department, where we went under a really strong transformation on site, where we had to really cut our costs and we had to change how we do things, and not just a little way, but to really dramatically change how we work and how everybody on site works. And I was part of the team of 4 who were selected in order to drive that change and design how the site could look in the future. I spent again about 1.5 years on that, and then I moved to a corporate role where I worked in Paris for 1 year. I wasn't based in Paris. I actually spent 3 months in Brazil. I spent a bit of time in Russia. So I traveled around to our, again, other Servier sites around the world to train them on how to do this transformation and lead it on their sites. So that was amazing, like 3 months living in Rio de Janeiro. It's something that I would never have dreamt of. And it was just an amazing experience to be able to go and share my knowledge with other people. When I came back to Ireland and I made performance manager. So at the age of 30, so I was, 7 years into my career, I had achieved what I always wanted to be, which was a manager. And I think that being an engineer and having the engineering skills and the way of thinking of an engineer is why I progressed to be a manager so quickly. From there, about 1.5 years ago, I was again promoted. While my role is similar, I'm now the head of performance. So I'm one of the senior managers on site. And for me, it really is about, again, how can I use the way I think, which is very different to other skills that the other senior managers have on site. Because of my engineering background, I think a little bit more methodically. I think very much, how can I solve a problem? There's always a different way. Let's do it. Let's be mad. And that's what I bring to the team. And for me, that's what I've gotten from my engineering background, is that way of thinking, of approaching life in general, not just in work, but outside of work also. So for me at the moment, I am the head of performance. I have a great team of 20 people, and I actually have a team of engineers working with me. And it's so amazing to work with engineers, and to be one myself. I'm very proud to say I'm an engineer. And just, I suppose, what I'm working on at the moment is, again, another transformation project, but this one is global, not just for the site here in Ireland. So being an engineer, it varies every day. What you do every day, month, week can change. And I would really recommend looking into the different types of engineering out there and pursuing or giving it a go.
Fabulous. Thank you, Emily. Well, you're clearly passionate about what you do, you know, and all that travel to Rio de Janeiro. Wow, that sounds really great, you know. So travel is kind of it is a common thing in engineering, isn't it? Because if you particularly work in those companies where they have those big sites and those big projects, it's fantastic. Lovely. We might come back to you in a while anyway with follow-up questions. And if you have any questions for Emily's career so far, just put them in the chat and just say a question for Emily or something, and we'll get to it at the end. Thanks, Emily, and thanks for kicking it off. It's never easy going first, so I appreciate that. So next up now we have Ifa Dempsey, and Ifa is at Intel and she works in the client computing group. I don't know what that is either, but I have a funny feeling that Ifa is going to tell us, and she has some slides to share as well. And Ifa, just to remind you, she did electronic engineering at Carlo IT. Ifa, come forward, tell us more.
So I guess when I was in 3rd year, 5th year, I didn't do 4th year, but I would have always wondered, like, what will I do? What am I interested in?
Yeah.
I was then in a girls' school, so there wasn't many like technical subjects, but I did do technology up to third year. And I always liked, there was like woodwork and electronics kind of a combination in there. So that kind of sparked my interest. I was always more interested in maths and science than languages, say, for example. That wouldn't have been my strong point. So I decided, what'll I try? I'll try something different. I'll try electronics. But like Emily said, she did the PLC route. I did a certificate first. So I was just signed up for a 2-year course rather than, committing to a degree when you weren't really sure if it was something you'd like. So I did the certificate in electronics for 2 years, then added a diploma, which is 1 year, and then added a degree, which was 2 more years. So I found that a good way to kind of see, did you like something without committing to the full degree, because you could always change after 2 years and you'd still have some qualification and have an introduction. Yeah. Or if you wanted to change to a different stream of engineering or whatever, they're probably easy enough to change. So after I graduated, then I took a job down in Limerick in analog devices, and I worked there as a test development engineer. I worked there for 3 or 4 years. Then I moved to Xilinx, which would be another American company in Dublin. And then I worked there for 2 years. Then I moved to Intel. So I've been in Intel now since 2013, so 8 years. And again, I'm working as a test development engineer. So I've kind of kept a similar role in all my jobs, but they've been different because it's been with a different company and different groups, and some of them have been kind of different. But I guess if you just go on to the next page, I can kind of explain a little bit more about the job that I would be doing now. So as I say, I work in Intel, and the group that I work in, they make chips, ICs that would go into laptops, computers, iPads, stuff like that. So my main job now is to work, and I develop the hardware and the software to enable the production testing. So our little silicon chip would be manufactured, but it needs to be tested in a factory before it can be sold. So every chip would need to be tested to make sure it's not faulty. So you can see on the right-hand side, you can see the machine, that would be the tester, and there's a computer attached to it. So you'd write a test program. It would use the tester to exercise the device and read back a response. That's basically the test. So it might take a minute or 2 or 3 minutes to run the full suite of tests. But we've designed, like the green board that you can see in the center of the picture, we designed that. So we'd have to work with a hardware group, design that, and then we'd write a test program to develop it, and then we'd work with the factories to release it. So it's a long process, but that's basically in a nutshell what the job would be. But you develop, so you can go on to the next page. You would develop, like Emily was saying, a lot of different skills that are very valued in any job, and like you can progress so much into other areas. So like you have all your problem solving, your organization, you do like time management, you have to work on a lot of things at once, so you have to be good for that. You'd work in large groups, you teamwork, people management and project management, and then you would be training. Like I've had all these, I wouldn't have had as varied a career, say, as Emily, or as many different jobs, but yet I would have done all the same things that she would have done in the one area. So you can see the training and development of yourself and others as well. You'd have to be constantly training yourself and then bringing on new people to join the team, things like that. And they're all very transferable skills and much sought after. And like that, there's so many opportunities. So it's actually funny because it's so similar to what Emily has, even though it's a completely different job in a different area. So like it's so easy to change roles within the company. You could do project management, people management, you could go down the technical path, and you could even change over to marketing. Like there's lots of different ways you could change at all within the one company, and then about that, there's like job opportunities in Ireland and abroad. So I'd work with teams in Israel, Bangalore, Malaysia, in the States. So there'd always be an opportunity to go and travel there, if not just for a training or whatever, for a few weeks. You could get an assignment if you wanted to, and that's to transfer, to a different group for 6 months or something. So like that, you have opportunities to travel if you're young and it suits you, and you want to, you're free and easy to go. And then there's always there's a clear path of progression in your career as well in a really large company. So, everything's set out in stages and defined goals for each level of your career and stuff. So it's good career path. And again, then you can have like many different careers within the one company. So like I know people like that work in Intel for 30 years and they're still working there, and they've had loads of different jobs all within the one. So it's a very varied industry, and by training it, you do open a lot of doors to a lot of different jobs. You don't have to be stuck onto the one path either. I kind of myself have kind of stuck to the one path quite a bit. It's just as it happened, but you know, it's not necessarily to say that you will be that way.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
would you have always been good at computers, Aoife, or do you need?
No, I
Yeah.
wouldn't be great at them, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, so that would be one part of my job, which I wouldn't be my strongest point to say. Like some people would be very good at test programming and like writing programs and scripts and all. I wouldn't be strong at that, but you can get by with all the other skills because it's such a varied job. Do you know what I mean? That you don't need to be, once you know you're not that strong and you know who to get to help you to do it or whatever, you know, you can get by. You don't have to be really strong at every aspect of it either, because I suppose no one is. You know, there's certain people in my group that would be very good at scripting. There's other people that would be good at hardware, other people, you know, so there's all different. Yeah. So
Good.
yeah.
Lovely. That's brilliant. Thanks very much, Aoife. So if you have a question for Ifa Dempsey, put it in the chat, or if you have a question in general just about pursuing a career in engineering, as you know, we are always amenable to your questions. So put them in the chat and I'll post them to our panel. So thanks very much for Aoife. That's brilliant. So next up we have Neve Mitchell. And just to remind you again that she is a project engineering at Snuffy, and she's on site. Ooh, she's lucky. And it's a real luxury to be on site, I have to say. And again, she did her engineering degree at UCD and specialising in bioengineering. But Niamh, tell us more.
So I might pull up, I just have one quick slide that
no problem.
that I prepared earlier. So
look, it's very nice.
I might just pull it up, but I suppose to start off, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. So when I was in TY and when I was kind of 16, you can see me there in the picture. I'm thinking back on what I liked in school, what I enjoyed, and what I wanted to do. So I loved science. I did biology and chemistry. I really enjoyed maths, art, kind of all those kind of, I suppose, technical subjects. But I went to an all-girls primary school and an all-girls secondary school, and unfortunately, I was never really exposed to physics. I didn't have applied maths. I was never really exposed to those subjects. So for me, engineering kind of was not something that would have jumped off the page at me. And it was actually my parents that kind of, I suppose, pushed me to have a little think about it, because I suppose I would consider myself kind of a curious individual, always asking questions, trying to understand and figure out how things work and why things work. So it was actually my parents that kind of floated the idea to me. And I remember I said it to my friends, and they all kind of were like, engineering, really? And they had pictures of a mechanic. And I'm actually laughing because Neve was just saying this before on the call, that, you know, they pictured a mechanic with a spanner and kind of, you know, overalls. That's what people thought engineering was. And it wasn't until I kind of dug a little deeper and did a kind of, I suppose, a little bit of research that I found out, I suppose, how varied engineering was, and kind of the scope and the different careers you could have. And one thing that sparked my kind of interest was I was a massive Disney fan and still am. And I actually met a project manager from Disney World, and she kind of led me down the path of an Imagineer. So basically what an Imagineer is an engineer for Disney. And I was like, okay, this cannot be more, there can't be a cooler job out there. So I picked up a book about it, learned a little bit more about it. You know, there's Imagineers out there who are designing roller coasters for Disney. There's a huge variety. So it kind of broadened my horizons and kind of opened up my view that it wasn't just, you know, someone standing in a garage with a spanner in their hands, that there's endless opportunities with engineering. So with that said, I went to UCD and studied, I started off general engineering and then moved into biomedical engineering. And one thing I would say is don't be nervous. Don't stress. If you have an interest in engineering, go for it. As I said, I didn't do applied maths, I didn't do physics, and I kind of felt that engineering wouldn't be an option for me. But I went on to college, and it by no means was I behind, or, you know, it didn't fault me in any way. If you have an interest, then by all means go for it. So I started, as I said, in with, I suppose, my dream of becoming an Imagineer when I was kind of your age, kind of 16, in TY, and moved into college and studied biomedical engineering. And I suppose I specialised in biomedical because I wanted to. I really liked the technical side, but I also had a kind of a keen interest. As I mentioned, I really like biology, I like chemistry. So it was a nice kind of fusion between the two, and there was a nice crossover between the medical side and the mechanical side of engineering. So they married really, really nicely, and I found it really, really interesting. So I specialised in mechanical, but to go back, I suppose, again, I'm gonna rant on about the scope and the horizons. I have friends who who specialised in biomedical engineering who are now working on, looking at classifying ECGs. There are others who are doing research into COVID-19 testing. There's people working on R&D. I chose to go into industry and kind of work in more kind of, I suppose, a international company. And when I graduated, I took up a job with Sanofi. So that's where I am currently. I've been here for the last 2.5 years, and I'm currently working as a project engineer, so project manager in capital projects. So just a little taste of what I do, I suppose, is I'm taking my kind of biomedical background and I'm putting it into development of equipment. So I work mainly with equipment and developing lines for qualification of new products and for new medical devices. So my job is, it's hands-on. I was actually just, behind me is a high-vis jacket. I'm just up from a construction site where we're commissioning, qualifying equipment. So I work with a team, cross-functional team. I have process engineers, I have automation, I have technicians, quality departments, operation personnel. We all work together. We're commissioned, hands-on with the equipment and kind of getting it ready for the first qualification so that we can get a product out to patients. So that's just kind of, I suppose, a nugget of what I do, and I suppose how I got to where I am. If you'd asked me at 16 what I was going to be doing or what I thought I was going to be doing, it wouldn't be anywhere where I am today. But it's been super duper. So if I would say, if anyone has an interest, go for it. Don't hold back.
Thanks, Neve. And that transition for you, where, as a TY, and, you were very interested in becoming an Imagineer for Walt Disney.
Mm-hmm.
How did you manage to change that into what you do now, but being very happy with your choices?
So I suppose my dream is not over yet. Maybe someday I will go work for Walt Disney.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
I realized I liked the working with people and I suppose making an impact really, and kind of helping people and developing that side of things. So once I got into the biomedical and I saw that the impact on people's lives, and everyone and anyone has been impacted by I suppose biomedical engineering, and I suppose the devices that we have and the technology we have today. So that's what really interested me, is I suppose you can see the impact you're making, whether it be through college, through development, even on site today. I can see we actually recently had a patient on site come and talk to us about a particular product, and it's a product that I'm developing the equipment for. So you can see firsthand you are making an impact and you are doing something, and it's there clear as day in front of you. So that's what really kind of sparked it for me. But we were also still using that kind of, I suppose, to coin the Imagineering side of things. And we're still developing new technologies on site. We're looking at introduction of cobots, automation, things like that. But we're also bringing in ideas, very basic engineering and kind of problem solving all the time. So it was kind of a combination of everything, I suppose, working with people, making an impact and problem solving. And I realized that it's not just within Walt Disney. That happens every day, and it happens in every aspect of engineering and within every job role. So
yeah, okay, lovely. Favorite Disney movie? I have to ask you.
Oh God, I don't know. Do you know? I'm going to go off the cuff, and I'm going to probably a controversial one. I love Mary Poppins.
Oh, okay, the new one.
The old one,
Okay.
the original.
Oh,
the
oh,
original.
yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. All right, brilliant. And I see you like Lego as well. We'll have to have another discussion about that.
Yes.
Yes, Neve, brilliant. Thank you so much. We'll come back later.
No
So if you have any
problem.
questions for Neve, if that pings with you that she wants to be an Imagineer, but she's found a way of transforming it, be sure to follow up with a question for her on that. So let's keep moving. I'm always conscious of time because all of these people we could spend a whole hour talking to individually. So next up, I think, is a very interesting person, and it's Bridget Walsh, and she's a civil engineer, and she studied at Carlow IT, but she had a change of career, which is very interesting. And I think it's something that is no harm for you to understand, even at this stage, you know, in your studies, that it's okay to have more than one career. So Bridget, tell us about your story and also your passion for climate action and renewable energy solutions.
Hi, Neve, thank you. I would have originally left school at 16. I finished my junior cert, and I would have actually started as a factory operative. And my son was born in 2002, and I decided to look at different ideas. So I went back to career guidance and looked at the option of different topics and subjects. So I chose to do my junior cert and leaving cert again. So I went back and I passed my junior cert. So I said, sure, I'll try and go on and do my leaving cert. With that, then I started looking at, I had a fantastic maths teacher that actually challenged me, asked me questions, and where would I like to be in 10 years' time, 5 years' time. So I actually went down to Carlow IT and had a look, and then applied for 2 night courses, which I did AutoCAD. And I decided then that would pay for my course if I decided to go back as a mature student to Carlow IT. So I did the 2 courses, and which then started in 2006 in Carlow IT on my path of engineering. So I used those courses to pay to go to college. So I worked at night time doing drawings, and then I studied during the day. And I had 2 children at that particular time. So I would graduate in 2011. But I absolutely, when I started, I knew when I walked in the first time and I saw the introduction and the open day for Carlow IT for engineering, I knew it was the correct decision. And I found I never looked back since. Absolutely love it. So in 2011, I would have started, I did an interview in March 2011, and the day did my last exam on a Friday, and I got a phone call Monday morning, starting in Carlow Precast, starting to do project programming and AutoCAD designs. So I started there Monday. I was promoted then in 2012 as project manager and stayed there for till 2016, just the beginning of, say, January 2017. So I worked as a project manager there for a little over 5 years. Then I started in stone tech cladding. I do find engineering is very diverse. You can switch from one profession or discipline to another. So I stayed in stone tech cladding for a year. I worked on the courthouse in Wexford, and I've also worked on the courthouse in Waterford, the cladding outside, designs of those. So then moved on from there, and I found something I absolutely just clicked with me. 2018, I started a job in renewable energy. Yeah. And I would have travelled and trained in the Netherlands and the UK and started to learn solar. So I'll just share a screen with you, if you don't mind.
No.
Sorry. No. Not sure if I'm doing something wrong. For some reason it's not sharing.
Oh no, we can see it.
Okay,
yeah. We can see it. Yeah. We've got yours. There you go. Yeah, I can see that fine.
Perfect. Sorry about that. So 2018, then I would have gone back and started training with the Netherlands, Van der Valk systems, and looking at solar PV, and would have travelled to the UK then with Van der Valk as well. So I would have been then in 2019, we won the project in Lidl, which is the largest ever solar installation. I would have been the project lead on it. So there would have been 1.2 megawatt of solar PV, just over nearly 5,000 PV panels. We did over 640 lifts, crane lifts, and it was the largest ever solar PV systems with 16 inverters, 2 G10s. It was amazing. We worked on that for a little over 12 weeks. And I would have been just the project lead on that. And from there, I've done a lot of training with Van der Valk and all the training of solar. I've done a lot of electrical training now. I've actually diversified into the electronics and the new technologies that solar brings to the table. So I constantly upskill, maybe once a month, every 2 months. I would constantly train of all the new systems that come out. The technology, we've installed that in 2019. Those systems are now obsolete. It moves on so quickly. So every 6 months, the panels, all the systems are obsolete. So we have to constantly train and upskill. And I find it very exciting to be part of the climate action plan and to be part of participating in the renewable energy section. I find with solar, it's kind of nice, clean energy, and it's instant. You get a payback straight away. So I find my career is very much varied, but I absolutely very passionate about it. And I've also worked on, there's a wind turbine that was built back down in Cork. I've also worked on that project as well. But I've gone back to solar, completely solar. I just stay on solar. So my project base is completely on solar at the moment.
That's amazing, Bridget. Can I ask you, like, that's quite a life you've already had, you know, and it takes guts to kind of change your career, and particularly, like, I can imagine, you know, trying to rear 2 kids while working to pay yourself through college. Where did that courage come from?
I would have met an amazing maths teacher when I went back to education. I would have had a career guidance that was very supportive and explained how I needed to get. Then when I started at Carlow IT, I met the most amazing lecturers that actually encouraged and constantly encouraged you to participate and be part of the team. And although a lot of the kids were 20, I was 35, 36. So it was like meeting your mother. But in fairness, I was very welcomed, and I found the lecturers were amazing, very supportive. And even when I had difficulty, I could go and explain the difficulties I had.
Yeah.
It was not a straightforward path. I had to learn metric, which I'd never done before. I had learned from imperial. So even the units, the basic thing like units, I have never done sciences. I had never done, never been any good at, I taught maths, the basics, but I actually started from the beginning and just stripped it all back and said, what do I need to do to achieve this? And I found from there, when I went to the lecturers and my teachers, I found the support that I was given was amazing. And I just found that people encouraged you to get out, to just participate and try it. And even if you fail, go at it again. It's no reflection on you. If you try it, at least you have the courage to try it in your convictions. But I found that it was amazing, and to meet the right person at the right time. And I seem to always kind of do that. I seem to kind of just be lucky. And I've worked and worked to achieve it now. So I'm very proud of what I did. And I became a chartered engineer last year. It was one of my proudest moments, I have to say. And I didn't get it the first time out, but I went for the second time. I dusted myself off and just got on and tried it again. So I achieved it the second time. It was one of my proudest moments when I received the email to say, congratulations, you are now a chartered engineer. If you had asked me back 10 years ago, would that ever be a vision that you'd see? No. But since then, I just try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. The only person that give you a hard time is yourself. So
yeah. Fair play, Bridget. That's brilliant. And I think it's very encouraging for people to hear that, you know, just because you start in one place doesn't mean that's where you're going to end up. And, you know, I don't think you're lucky. I think they saw that you had passion for being an engineer, and those people, I think most people try to help. When they see people who are passionate about something, everybody wants to help, but you did the work. It's not luck, you did the work. So thank you. That's great. We'll come back to you later with more questions. So if you feel that Bridget's story particularly resonated with you, this is your chance to ask her a question. So put your questions in the chat, and it's a really unique thing. And it's okay, you know, to start somewhere and to kind of end up somewhere else. That's life, you know. And if you have passion and you're prepared to work hard, anything is possible. And I really do believe in that. Thank you, Bridget. So let's keep going. And next up, we have Aisling Mcgrath, who is coming to us from Clonmel. And just to remind you that Aisling told us that she's a mechanical engineer who graduated from Waterford Institute of Technology. And she's now working at Abbott as a quality control inspector. And I think I have slides for you, don't I, Aisling? It's my job to do your slides. So let me know when you want me to put them up for you.
Yeah, well, of course.
Thank you.
So I suppose I'll give a background with myself. When I did transition here, and we used to go to all like the higher options, you go to the open days of the college, and I always found like, I'd always say to my friends, like, I'm going to do engineering, and I was always told, oh, you're going to be like a fancy mechanic. And I was like, no, there's a bit more to it. There's more out there. But I always remember as well, before I go to like the colleges, my mum would always be saying to me, go to the stand that you want to study. Just take the 5-10 minutes away from your friends and just go talk to the lecturers, just get an understanding of what you do. It's only 10 minutes away. But I honestly did benefit from taking that step out and just moving to the side, going to the little tables and saying, I want to study engineering. Give me, I got my information. It helped me decide this is where I want to go with my life. When I was in school, I did get to study physics. So that also did help. It kind of gave me a bit more of an understanding of the workings of the world, should we say. And then I did decide to study engineering in Waterford. I did 2 years of a higher cert in mechanical engineering. And then I went on to study BEng and a BEng honours in manufacturing engineering. So I graduated back in May 2018. And in July, I'm from Clonmel. Avavascular is based in Clonmel also. They had an opening for operators on the line. And I remember sitting there, I was in a kind of job that was just getting me through college. And I remember saying, if I got my foot in the door, it's a foot in the door.
Yeah.
So I applied in July and then just did my interview in August. September, I got a phone call to say, yeah, we're taking you on. You'll be starting in October. That was great. A week before I started, I got a phone call from Abbott to say that they had reviewed my CV and they've actually offered me a job in quality due to my studies that I'd done in college. So if you want to start into the slides.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just share my screen now.
Yep. So I got to start work in Abbott Vascular. So Abbott has 11 sites based across Ireland. There's a site in Clonmel, Cootehill, Donegal, Dublin, Longford, Sligo, Galway. Abbott has ranges of vascular sites, nutrition, diabetic and diagnostic sites in Ireland. So it's a range of everything for, you might want to be interested in nutrition. There's also sites based around Ireland for that. So because I live in Clonmel, it all worked out that I got to work in Clonmel. So if you want to move on the second slide. So I am a quality control inspector. So I'm in receiving inspection. So basically my job is product comes into the plant. I then will be the first person to touch product. So I have to carry out testing on the product to ensure that it's fit for production, but also Abbott has a set standard. So we have set across all parts, there's testing that has to be carried out. We have to ensure that that also meets Abbott standard, because once that goes onto production floor, it's then gets made into product, and then you have to think then future down the line, product then is made for human use. So there's Abbott has a logo, say, built as intended for your family. So we actually do days where people that had the products that we make, they come in and they tell their story. But a lot of it's really hits close to home, because we had the last few days, we've had people that have worked on site and they've used the product, and they've had either used stents or a few products that you kind of see when they do the slideshow and they pull up all the names of people who've worked on the product, that there was inside them. It kind of resonates. It's like, oh, I worked on that. But you don't think that when I suppose you're so much is coming in, you're like, it's going across the world, it's going here, but then it's someone that you worked with that is using the product.
It's a nice feeling, I'd say, is it?
It's very rewarding, because you never think, because it was actually, I'm here now, Abbott, 2.5 years now. And I was actually the last kind of customer appreciation day. It was the first time I saw my name on a board for a woman on the line in there. And I was like, think that someone you'd know would be standing there and you had an involvement with that.
That's brilliant, isn't it? That's really great. And tell me, is the job what you imagined it to be when you went to that careers fair? You know, the way, like you were saying, that you were just going to go straight up and stuff. Is what you're doing now like what you thought you were going to be doing, or is it completely different?
Well, I didn't really have an idea at the start of where I wanted. I was like, we'll just do engineering, we'll see how it all works out. But then once I kind of started to start my studies, I realized I wanted to go into the pharmaceutical side of it. Where I wanted to go pharmaceutical, I could wait and see the positions.
Yeah. Brilliant. And I mean, you know, what's great about your story is that you're quite early on in your career, which is great. So I'm trying to stop my share here. I don't know what's up with my mouse. Sorry, there we go. Stop share. Yeah, and it's great that you're recently out. So is college life and your work life, is it nice? Is it easy to adjust between the two?
Yeah, it's interesting to see, like, I'm working with engineers,
Yeah.
and it's like things that they'd be coming up with, and you're like, I did that in college, and you see the things linking in, and you're like, you're just like, oh my God, I can see all this happening.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant, Ashley. Thanks very much. We'll come back to you again with more questions. And there you go. You see, there's somebody now who's Ashley was only out like a short while, so if you can if you can think of questions for her about that transition from college into work, perhaps she might be able to answer them for you. But as I say, I have loads of questions for all of them anyway. But let's go to our last panelist that we have to meet and hear a little bit more about, and that's Ifa Conway. And Ifa, just to remind you, is project manager at Quintain Property Development in Dublin. She did her civil engineering degree at Carlow IT and then went on to do a master's degree at Napier University in Edinburgh. So Ifa, come forward and tell us a little bit more about what you've been up to. I saw her there a second ago, so she's here. Where is she? There she is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was on mute there. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm a project manager with Quintain, so property developer in the real estate industry in Dublin. I might go into a little bit more of what that means later, but it's been kind of a journey to get there as well. And I think some of the other girls have said, you kind of find a path or things open up for you, but I think that happens, due to what you're really interested in. Engineering is so broad, and I think everyone that's spoken, I know Bridget and I were actually in the same class in Carlow IT, so it's just mad, like, and everyone else that was in my class, we've gone into such different things, which is just so interesting. But to go back when I was in school, in transition year, again, I was in an all-girls school, so there wasn't many subjects like tech graph or, the kind of engineering subjects that I heard of other people doing. But I really liked maths and sciences, physics, and I really liked art and architecture as well. So I kind of was a mix of the problem solving, mathsy type, but really liked art, buildings, just loved all of that. So I think at the time I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I thought I wanted to be a doctor because I just loved how things worked. And I had a great careers guidance teacher who was actually my maths teacher as well, and she pointed me in the direction of engineering. She said, I think you should try engineering, you really might like it, but didn't know what it was either. My older brother had studied engineering, but again, I associated him with like construction sites and that sort of thing, and that really wasn't what I was that interested in. But I went to TU Dublin actually first and did first year common engineering, just a mix across all the different disciplines of engineering just to see what it was like. And from there, I really liked civil engineering. So it was in the ground, how it was like, how we built underground, how tunnels were done, how water, it just kind of incorporated a lot of different elements. So I went to Carlow IT and did a degree in civil engineering there. And from there, I went to Edinburgh and completed a master's. So when I finished university, there weren't many kind of jobs back in Ireland at the time. I know there's loads now, but a lot of my friends were going to Australia and Canada and all these other places. So I thought, this is where I'm off to. This is amazing. But I ended up getting a graduate job in London with a company called Murphy's. So it was a civil engineering company. And it was a 2-year graduate program with them, which I just thought was excellent as well. And a lot of the big engineering companies offer that. And you kind of go in and you're based, you move between site and a design office. You're in loads of different roles across the 2 years. So you get a huge exposure to all different types of engineering. But I think I was still interested in buildings and architecture. And I still just always had that. I was, especially in London, because obviously there's skyscrapers and there's just so many cool buildings there. And I was always still interested in that. So I ended up a property developer who were kind of looking for an engineer, like specifically for a qualified engineer to work on some of their high-rise buildings. And I ended up going for the interview, not thinking much about it, but got in there and then worked in some really cool developments. I was 6 years then with a company called the Berkeley Group over there and just worked on loads of cool buildings. So I have a couple of them to show. Get them up, if you can see it. So, and I think how engineering kind of feeds into all these different elements. So the one on the left is one called Chelsea Creek, but you can see there's kind of a river that comes in. It's off the Thames, and that helps with actual tidal flooding. So there's a big engineering part of that, and people get a little boat to dock up into their houses on, which I suppose is the fancy part of it. But more so, it's actually helping alleviate the flooding along the sides of the river. And then the top right one was another one, again, on the river. We did a boat club and just created kind of a beautiful place for people to live. And then the biggest one that I was part of was One Blackfriars, it's called. So it was a 54-story tower. And just the engineering that goes behind that, you can see the tiny footprint at the bottom of it and how you get that structure to stand in the ground with piling and all these other engineering methods. It's really, really interesting and really, really cool to be a part of. So then I moved back to Dublin in July last year and took up a job with Quintain here. So maybe not quite on the scale of some of the projects in London, but, we're still creating these big towns and villages in Ireland. So there's one in Portmarnock there, which is really close to the beach. We've got one in Cherrywood and Adamstown. And I just think it's great being part of creating new communities and homes that are going to be there forever. For me, I get a real sense of achievement when I drive past something that, I was part of or I helped build. And I think some of the girls mentioned before as well, when it comes to, your career and how you progress in the company you're in, I think having an engineering background makes you think slightly different to other people when it comes to solving problems and sorting things out, which I think has helped me so far just to have a dynamic career and kind of move around and interact with loads of different people.
Really interesting, isn't it, Aoife, how you said at the start, you were always interested in art and architecture, and you have managed to find a career that combines everything. And you didn't actively go looking for a course to do that, and yet your career has got you there.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I think things open up for you as you go through your career that just spark your interest because of, the small thing you might be interested in that someone else would completely look over, and it leads you down a path into something then, that is perfect for you. Yeah,
I think sometimes, when when you have a passion, I think, almost the passion finds you. You don't have to go looking for it, and opportunities arise that kind of match that. So that's fantastic. I've actually seen that One Blackfriars building. I was on my way to the Tate Modern. I was going there by the river, and I saw them cleaning the windows, and I watched them clean the windows, I'd say for about 20 minutes, because I couldn't get over how tall that building is. It's a really stunning building. So it's really great that you're involved in that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Hopefully it'll always be there as well.
Oh,
I always kind of say around.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Aoife. So now we've heard from all of our panelists, and it's your chance to ask them some questions. We have 10 minutes. We don't have much time, but if you do, you can come forward, you can raise your hand, or you can put your questions in the chat. Okay. So if you want to do that, don't worry. I have more than enough questions that I've kind of think that might be relevant to where you're at in your life. For me, I think the one thing that we all have in common is that we are girls. And I noticed that, say, for Bridget's picture that she put up, she was the only woman on the team. You also heard Aisling talking about she was the only person on her team when she heard that story from the person. So just that notion of doing something that's kind of a minority choice in terms of what other girls in your class were doing when they came to kind of filling out their forms and their CAO. So Emily, we haven't heard from you for a while. So let's go back to you about did you ever come across any obstacles as a kind of a girl in STEM, or was your choice to do engineering different to what the girls in your class were doing? And if so, what kind of kept you moving forward?
Yes, so obstacles, definitely not, thank God, nothing that would roadblock me. Exact same as what the girls said. I remember being in the Trinity Open Day and going to the arts and the social studies, and I was like, okay guys, I've gone to your ones, you're coming into this one with me. And we watched how cars impact when they have a car crash and how you can actually, mechanicalize things out of things. So they were like, right, okay, we're going to go here with this one. I was in an all-girls school. I went from an all-girls school to the only girl in my class. It took a long time to be taken seriously. And when I joined the company, I was very fortunate that I had done work placement and they had seen what I could do and I was hired on my merit. But I still had obstacles of, there was one engineer who would ask me a question and then ask the man sitting next to me who would answer the exact same way. And you're like, okay. So it's more, I never let any of that defeat me. I've always let that, okay, I'm going to rise to this. The most recent one would be, I was the first female on the steering committee of the board of directors for the company and the site. A lot of whispers, I must be the token woman for people who didn't know me, but I proved them wrong. In a year and a half, I proved them why I'm there, not because I'm a woman, but because I earned it.
Good for you.
But I like to think of it from the other side, that I bring something totally unique. Being a woman, I think differently. I have different values. I have a different way of thinking of what matters to me, and I bring that to the team. And I think I balance the men out. Even if I am the only woman in the room, I can balance people out just because I think differently. So I see it more as an opportunity than an obstacle.
That's brilliant, Emily. That's really great encouragement. And Aoife, what about you? Ifa Dempsey, because we haven't heard from you for a bit either. You're at the top. What about you? Did you overcome any obstacles, or were you in the minority? And what does that feel like? Just come off mute there, Aoife. Just come off mute.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Yeah, I would have been the only girl in my class in college as well. So I would have come from an all-girls school to the only girl in class in college. But no, I didn't really find any obstacles, I suppose. I suppose the one thing about that is you kind of have to act like a lad to get in with the lads, if you know what I mean. But I don't mind anyway. Like I like lads' company anyway, as in like they're not being bitchy, there's nothing like that. Do you know what I mean? So it's all just very general and very easygoing. So that's fine. But not really. In work, I guess now there's a big push to hire more females.
Good.
So it's been good. And like even when I came out of college, which is 15, 16 years ago, there was always, not that you had an advantage as a woman, but they were in short supply and they were looking for them. So, I feel if there was a man and a woman both went for a job, both the same, the woman would probably get the job because they want to fill more women's spaces. So it was an advantage. But now the only thing I can see is that if it goes too far, you become the token woman. And then it's kind of like, people don't see it seriously. They're like, she only got the job because she's a woman, so they're trying to even it out. But I think on the other hand, they can go too far with it. And
it's patronizing.
I think so, because there is no obstacles. There's absolutely no obstacles in my work. Like,
no.
Sometimes if you're working with a lot of men, you kind of have to act more like a man. You have to speak up more, as Emily was saying. Like, sometimes a man might answer and say the same thing you did, and they say, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea." And you're like, "I just said that 2 minutes ago. Like, what the hell?" But you just need to be more pushy. Like the women are always like, "Oh, I think that if we maybe did that," and you don't want to step on his toes. Where a lad just comes in and like, "We should do this, this, and this," and they're like, "Oh yeah, great idea." So you just need to, I suppose, put yourself a bit forward more and stuff like that.
Yeah, and not take it personally. Yeah, not take it personally.
Not take any of it personally. Yeah, exactly.
Go, yeah. Brilliant. Thanks, Aoife.
Yeah. But I don't think there is obstacles really.
Good. That's great. Okay, we have a question and we have just about enough time for me to get a few hit answers. So Side Crony says, did any of you ever have any doubts about engineering? Like, did you ever have a moment where you felt like it was getting so hard that you just wanted to quit? So let's see, I'll ask that. Bridget, I mean, my God, if anyone should answer that. Bridget.
Many times. During class, and just say when I started for engineering first, different units and even references, I had to go off and Google what things meant, and I didn't have a lot of the technical background, but over the period of time I would have learned it many times in jobs that you're starting off. But it's like everyone, you're learning. You start in every job, you learn it, you work back, strip it back and just do it. And if you don't know the answer, ask the question. If you don't know something, just ask. And I've learned that people have more respect for you. You sit in a room and say, listen, actually, I don't know what you just said. Can you just clarify? And I found and if you don't know something, go off and learn it, or find someone that actually can show you and understand it and be transparent and explain it to you.
Very good. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Bridget. What about you, Neve? Neve Mitchell.
Yeah, it's funny because when I think back in college, there was definitely times where I was thinking, oh my God, I'm not cut out for this. I don't have a physics background. I don't have the same mind for this. And often you would see the guys shooting up with hands in the class saying, oh, what's this? How do I get this? And I was sitting there thinking, oh my God, I wouldn't have even thought to ask the question. So there were plenty of times, but you will always find that there are 9 times out of 10, there's about 20 or 30 other people in the same boat as you. And I would have always thought, God, this is too tough, it's too difficult. But no, persevere, keep going through, because everyone's in it together, and you'll be surprised when one person asks the question that's on 20 people's minds. So keep going with it, because it will be tough. But it's worth it. It's worth it in the end. And I think the satisfaction and the feeling of accomplishment is totally worth it. Because if it was tough, everyone would be doing it. So
Exactly.
if it wasn't tough, I should say, yeah.
Exactly. That's it. Okay, I'm going to ask one last question to Aisling Mcgrath and Ifa Conway. What advice would you give to your TY self after everything that you've achieved? So that's going to be apt to the girls listening today. So what advice would you give to your TY self? I'll start with you, Aisling Mcgrath. What advice would you give?
What I'd say to myself is, don't be afraid to stand out from the crowd. Don't try to follow what everyone else is doing. If I wanted to study engineering, I was the only girl in my year that wanted to study engineering. And there was moments when a few teachers were like, sure now, and I was like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going down this path, and this is what I want to do.
Fair play to you, Aisling. Yeah.
And here I am. I'm very happy with my choices to this day.
Good. Yeah, you're a living example of it. And Aoife, what about yourself? What advice would you have given to yourself back then?
I'd say just don't expect to have all the answers, right now, because I think when, you're going in, I think course is one thing, and even where you're picking to go to college or university, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You might think you want to go somewhere and you might get something else, but it opens up a number of doors to you. But yeah, I definitely say, don't worry if you don't know everything, and college and university, it's there for you to learn everything, and it's really kind of a safe environment for that. There's especially engineering, because there's so many group projects and practical elements that you kind of work as teams, and you're never really left on your own to kind of figure it out. So it's a really, really good course in that respect.
Thanks, Aoife. Thank you. Oh, look, I could ask you a ton of questions. I keep asking you questions. You are mighty women, all of you, and I'm sure that the TY classes tuning in today learned a lot from listening to you. And thank you all so much for joining us. We are going to have to finish because it's 1 o'clock. So Emily Watson, Aoife Dempsey, Neve Mitchell, Bridget Walsh, Aisling Mcgrath, Ifa Conway, thank you so much for giving of your valuable time today, and we wish you continued success in your career and keep flying the flag. And I know you sisters of STEM, you will be there supporting every girl that comes behind you, and that's the thing, isn't it? We take care of each other and we drop the ladder down, and we encourage and we help each other out as we all proceed in our career. So thanks very much. So happy Engineers Week again. This event is supported by Engineers Ireland, Southeast Branch and Engineering, and the Southeast Industry Cluster. Please come back. It's 12 o'clock. Did I say 1 o'clock? Sorry, I do apologize. I'm 1 hour ahead at the moment where I am. Do continue to ask your questions. All these women, and I'm sure they'd gladly take your questions if you wanted to email them further on down the line, or indeed to Engvest here, or Waterford IT, or Carlow IT. So that's it for today. And best of luck in your careers, TYs, and stay safe. And we'll all be back together again soon. So thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.